ahead.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well,
And
good. Well,
do you mind if we
sorry. Of
record this meeting? Sorry.
course you can. Yeah, no
Sweet.
problem.
Perfect. Thank you. Do that. Oop.
And I wanted to ask, it sounds like you have a lot of experience managing cost and budgets, and with managing cost and safety, how do you
Oh,
prioritize that ethically?
so great question. I should have brought up safety. Safety is probably the most important thing in our company because failure to keep people safe leads to a myriad of problems. So safety is we have daily in our company daily safety briefings on any particular job site. Even when in the office, we do three to four safety training courses every month. Sometimes they're repeated that you have to do them X times a year or whatever. But the keeping the tabs, there's no compromise to safety. Now, can you spend too much? Yes. So you can overdo the safety thing, but we obviously have to adhere to not only the OSHA requirements, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with OSHA, Occupational Safety and Hazard Act, but I mean we also we have food safety, which is an entity in itself. So how to maintain, food safety, like no open contain, no people walking around with, you have to have hair nets in certain areas in the can plants, and all that food safety requirements. You have rat traps, and they get inspected. Like, once a month, and you have Rent-A-Kill come in and they do their safety checks. And I mean, this is food safety. And then you've got personal safety where all the machine guarding. So like for your instance, if you go into the true mechanical side of things, you'll see whenever design a machine, safety comes up as a priority. How to prevent, the various, the pinchings and the amputations, and then from the electrical side, the shocks and the just generally safety. Safety is prime. However, we try and when I say do a minimum, we try and do what is required by OSHA. Having a knowledge of the process and the people operating, we know that a lot of these people, that when they get to a point where they're fully involved in these can lines, they have experience. So they're not going to go and open something, squeeze their hand through a crack and stick it into a piece of running equipment. You could do that. So we design a guard that is budget friendly, but is maybe 95% secure from that perspective. However, it meets all the OSHA safety requirements and any other safety requirement. There are local safety requirements as well. So you'd have state safety requirements and federal requirements. But generally speaking, if we say we're designing a piece of equipment and we're managing that, we would obviously look at the basic machine design first, and then look at the moving parts and see what guarding can we put in that's not an obstruction to operation. In other words, you don't want to have to spend 3 hours, getting into a machine to change a belt. So try and make it as maintenance friendly, and as basically machine uptime is money. So any piece of machinery that is not running is money. It's costing you money. So try and make your guarding as effective as possible, but still keep that machine running. That is our goal. And so we'll optimize designs over and over again. But yeah, you could spend an inordinate amount of money trying to make a machine safe or process safe, and you'll never get payback on that from the financial side. So it is a juggle. Great question. I think it's more a case of safety being that priority, but the close second is maintaining that budget. And yeah, it's not always easy. Yeah.
So kind of leaning into what you alluded at, looking at the difference between state and federal programs, you also mentioned that you've worked in Poland and China.
Yep.
China, not really notorious for its human valuations.
No.
How has that, working as underneath a Western company that does have to follow Western ethical concerns, how did you juggle both of those?
Yeah, Poland was a little bit, they were just entering the EU in 2009, that's 2008. So they were sort of trying to, they were more safety oriented when it came to the process and equipment. So we had a little bit of education there. However, they had their own guarding. Machine guarding is mechanical and electrical. So they have switches there, what they call fail-safe switches. You got Many switches are lockout. When you put it this way, when you maintain a piece of equipment, when a guy has to come and work on a piece of equipment, you have something called a lockout tagout procedure. So you'll make sure there's no stored energy. You'll make sure that there's a lock associated on the power that's feeding that the machine is. Power is turned off and you have a safety lock there. You'll lock it out. Only one person can open that, and that's a specific individual who's responsible for that. And so there's many safeguards you put in place that Poland started adapting when we were there. Right off the bat, they were a little bit rough around the edges, especially the part I was in is right on the Ukraine border. And so, the whole ex-communist minimal safety, just, we're tough, we can do it, let's just make stuff. And we had to educate them a bit. So we found them modifying some of our guarding so they would bypass switches. And then we said, hey, this is a CE. Now, CE is a European safety protocol. We have UL and others in the United States, but CE was one that we had to stamp all our machines that they were CE certified. And that's a process. You'll take your machine to a company that specializes in like CE, the European safety specs. They'll go through it. And some things, you're right, are not the same as in the United States. They sometimes go a little bit further in many areas. So we'd have to certify it. You pay like 10 grand for like a machine. They'll certify it and give you all the paperwork and that. And then your CEO, your CFO of your company has to sign off on that. And he can go to jail if that stuff, somebody gets hurt by that piece of equipment in Europe. So it's pretty intense. But Poland were great. China, not so much. And I love the Chinese people. Had great food and great friends there. But there's a certain level of management in China, and the subordinates don't question them at all. The authority is ultimate by certain. The guy can say, stand your head in the middle of the factory floor, and they will do it without any question. They're super. They really, I think, fear their leadership. And I got to be careful what I say here, but many things. We had some intense meetings between our guys and theirs on the safety issues, because the welders, they welded there, no welding helmets. They would use sunglasses and they'd just look backwards and forwards and weld. And so we had contractors working for us. We insisted they have safety. And so we'd give them all our safety gear and have to train in the safety side of things. No respirators when they're working on like these severe coatings. We're putting it inside of these trenches and things to try and isolate the chemicals from the groundwater. They wouldn't bother. They would get in there without respirators. Some of them would pass out. They'd pull them out, and an hour or two later they're back in. That type of thing. That was foreign to us. However, I must say, over the couple of years, I saw a transition towards more I call Western safety standards, where people were becoming more important than just the money that the company could make or save. And so there was a huge change, though. I did see that from beginning to when we left there finally, but nevertheless, they're not quite there yet, and still some problems. But yes, it was very, very different.
Thank you so much for sharing that insight and all this experience with us. We really do appreciate it. Right now, that's all the time for the assignment that we have right now. But if you're willing, I'd love to meet back up with you when we get back into Denver and keep this conversation going, because this is awesome.
Fantastic. Yeah. But good luck with your careers, man. Choose wisely and get some financial background to you. It'll help you a lot. It would have helped me if I'd done it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for meeting with us. This was extremely helpful.
Great. Well, I hope so. You do. That's where I am right now. So it's a whole range of skills I've learned. Engineering has been a wonderful, probably the best thing I could have done was getting my engineering degree. And I know it's hard for you guys. You think what direction to take, but you'll start out probably super technical. I'm not sure. You'll probably start out super technical.
Thank you so much for sharing that insight and all this experience with us. We really do appreciate it. Right now, that's all the time for the assignment that we have right now. But if you're willing, I'd love to meet back up with you when we get back into Denver and keep this conversation going, because this is awesome.
Fantastic. Yeah. But good luck with your careers, man. Choose wisely and get some financial background to you. It'll help you a lot. It would have helped me if I'd done it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for meeting with us. This was extremely helpful.
Great. Well, I hope you do.